Hello, and welcome to Pandora Astrology's monthly horoscope for July of 2023. We are the astrologers of Pandora Astrology. I'm Jamie Kale Miller. I'm in Berkeley, California.
And I'm Julia Mijas, and I'm in San Francisco, California.
Let's take a look at what's happening this month for you. And by the way, Virgo, your birthday is coming soon. If you haven't scheduled your yearly birthday reading yet, there's still time to do it before your birthday, which is the most powerful time to do it. This lets you ritualize your personal New Year's moment and jump into your year empowered to make it the best one ever. It also comes with fantastic affirmations you can use all year to create your best life. You'll find a link for it in the description below. Well, Ceres is in Libra all month, right here in your second house until mid-September. Wherever Ceres is, you want to bring good stewardship to this domain. Now, this is just lovely because Ceres loves being in the second house. This is the house that she rules naturally, and it's very aligned with her themes of things to do with the physical world. Our physical bodies and how we are in them, how we maintain them for health and longevity, how we eat and digest, and also our money and our finances and how we run our finances. And underneath it all, our self-worth and the value that we bring to the world, and how we can increase that value and increase our understanding of and belief in that value. So Ceres is going to be traveling along your second house for about 2 months. That's generally how long she takes passing through a house. And I told you months ago, back all the way back in February, that Ceres was going retrograde and that we were at that time entering into a financial rebalancing period. Now that whole thing has totally played out. And if you're just getting your Pandora Astrology horoscope now for the first time and you weren't aware of that, let me just tell you that it wouldn't be surprising if the last couple of months were filled with dietary and financial tangles that you have had to unsnarl. And now things are finally smoothing out. And that is the really good news. So whatever you have devised as your new system going forward for how you're going to eat, or how you're going to maintain your health and remember to take your vitamins and so forth, or how you're going to manage your finances, bodes fair to continue and support you going forward. So that is wonderful news. And there's a real peak of this on July 15th, which I like to call Financial Resolution Day. This is the day when Ceres leaves the span of degrees that she was retrograde in. And if that's just gobbledygook to you, don't worry about it, because all you need to know is that from here on, it's smooth sailing as you implement whatever your response was to the financial tangles of the spring. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is Juno, which is traveling along through the sign of Cancer all month and will be in Cancer until mid-August. Juno is a networker. She is an asteroid goddess to do with marriage and committed relationships, but she also has to do with your social life in general and how you manage all of the connections that you have and how you might want to help people that you know get to know each other to strengthen your own social fabric and safety net. And what's lovely is that Juno in the sign of Cancer brings a lot of warmth and like a family feeling. And she's doing that in your 11th house, which is the domain of community and tribe and networks, veering, from acquaintances that you just don't know very well to good friends that you've been connected to for years and everything in between. And also colleagues at work and acquaintances, that you know through your professional life. So Juno, as it's passing along through the 11th house, can be super, super useful for gathering the tribe And if you do run your own business, this could be a really great time to design and implement a social media marketing campaign where you present your followers with something very warm and very friendly feeling that they might, like to engage in as they follow you and, support your business. So let's see, what is next? Oh, I want to tell you about Chiron. So Chiron is traveling along through Aries. Chiron has this super irregular orbit. And Chiron doesn't originally belong in our solar system. It's been speculated by astronomers that Chiron might be a comet originally captured by the gravitational pull of the sun as it was cruising along through the Milky Way and got pulled into an orbit which has this very irregular shape, which has the side effect of having Chiron move much faster through some signs and much slower through others in its orbit of 50 years. So Chiron spends a long time passing through Aries, as long as any sign that it passes through. Pisces and Aries, it spends the most time in, and then the opposite ones, Libra and Virgo, it spends the least time in, about 1.5 years. So Chiron's involved in this long 7-year journey through the sign of Aries. And Chiron is the wounded healer and is bringing up all kinds of occasions upon which we might get triggered about how we could be more assertive or more direct or more honest. We could protect ourselves more strongly. And everybody needs to fight their own battles in life and to fight them valiantly. But also, on the other hand, you don't want to become a grizzled, old, war-torn warrior person who thinks that war preparedness is all that there is to life. So Chiron, when he heals us in the sign of Aries, brings us the opportunity to find a balanced way to assert ourselves and to be honest and direct without being aggressive or cutting or ragey. So Chiron is doing all this stuff in your 8th house, and so is involved in this 7-year journey through your 8th house, which is going to be spent largely in the sign Aries, and it's going to bring up a lot of stuff that's been maybe buried, is in the deep recesses of your unconscious. And so you might have some ragey feelings during the time of Chiron's passage, not all the time, but at times when maybe this Chiron is involved in, like a full moon, for example. So what I want to let you know right now that's really pertinent is that Chiron is going to go retrograde this month on the 23rd, and there you can see the little red RX symbol there is showing us that Chiron is now retrograde, which means that if Chiron is transiting anything in your chart, you're going to feel on the 23rd or within a week surrounding it like you have arrived at a pivot point, a point where you just can't go on with this wounding in the same way that you've been accustomed to, that this wounding is showing itself to be a drag on your tail. It's slowing you down. It's making you angry. And that it's time to go on an inward journey, which will last several months while Chiron is retrograde, to go inside yourself and discover, what is it that needs healing? What is it inside you that has been there for years, all along, since childhood, perhaps, that has just been triggered by present day events, and that could now, through the magic of Chiron, be healed once and for all. So the 23rd is a pretty pivotal day for Chiron. Julia, what's up with the inner planets this month?
Well, Virgo, your ruling planet Mercury is still moving fast through the sky. It's going to go through 3 different houses this month. And when your ruling planet is fast and direct, it means things are really running quite smoothly in your life, which is nice. Mercury is going to begin in your 11th house of friends and social groups, where you might find yourself connecting to a lot of people, maybe through messengers or social media or through texts and phone calls. It really can just up the social activity in people's lives. Then by July 10th, Mercury is going to go into the 12th house, where it's also going to just be joining a few of the other planets in there, like Venus. And when Mercury is in the 12th house, since Mercury represents our mind and the 12th house is such a hidden, ethereal place, it means that you might want to keep your thoughts a little bit more to yourself, especially because Venus is in here as well. When both planets are in here, you might find yourself withdrawing from people socially more, wanting to spend more time on your own, wanting to spend more time with your partner on your own. And you could be doing your best thinking, really getting good ideas from ethereal places, like from meditation and from dreams as well, which can all be ruled by the 12th. Then by the end of the month, July 28th, Mercury is going to move into your first house of self. And that's when you're really going to want to express yourself with your words and your mind. The first house is such a front and center house. What you see is what you get in the first house. And with Mercury here, you're going to be expressing yourself. Whatever is on your mind, you're going to want to share with other people. You might even notice you're a bit more articulate than usual. And it's a great transit if you want to impress people with your mind. Now, the next planet I want to talk about is Venus. So we'll back up a bit, where she is in the 12th house. And actually, she's going to stay in this house all month, because she's about to do a whole retrograde cycle here. So you're really going to get familiar with Venus in the 12th. So Venus is a relationship planet, and she represents love and pleasure. And when Venus goes retrograde, which she will at the end of the month, it's a time of relationship review in our lives. So just having Venus in the 12th might mean that you get a lot more pleasure and enjoyment being on your own, or hanging out with your partner one-on-one in sort of a place that's a little isolated, away from sort of seeing eyes of other people, whether that's a retreat or just hanging out at home, or maybe doing a camping trip in the wilderness together. That might be the focus of your relationship needs with Venus in the 12th. Now, the 12th house is a very sacrificial place, and Venus is a relationship planet. So when Venus goes retrograde on July 22nd, the things that you might be reviewing in your relationships are questions of sacrifice. Have you been sacrificing yourself too much for your partner, for your own detriment? Have they been sacrificing themselves too much for you? Venus in the 12th house is really, especially while retrograde, is really going to have to sort out some inequalities and asymmetries in the relationship, especially having to do with giving. Is one partner giving a little bit too much and not necessarily having that well received? And since the 12th house is such a spiritual house, it's a house that transcends the self. You might be wondering how you connect with your partner on either more altruistic or spiritual levels. Like, are you guys sharing those same spiritual values, those same altruistic values? You might want to foster dogs and they don't. Is that going to create an issue? And how are you guys going to resolve it? I think those could be certain areas to keep in mind by the end of the month, and while Venus does her whole retrograde cycle in your 12th. Finally, I'll say a few things about Mars. Mars hangs out in the 12th house for the first third of the month, the first 10 days. Mars is a planet of action and activity, but Mars is also a little bit crunchy too. He's known as one of the malefics, meaning that he has some challenges as well that we can definitely transcend if we're aware of them. But with Mars starting out in the 10th house, Mars can represent our anger. And when it's in the 12th house, we might just kind of get angry out of nowhere. And it might also be very hard for us to be able to place where that anger is coming from, because the 12th house is such a diffuse place. It's so globalized. It could be the subconscious in a lot of ways. So, it may be, you might get kind of irritated out of nowhere and have a hard time placing it. But by July 10th, Mars enters your first house. This is the house of self. So when Mars is in the first, your Mars is going to be really seen and felt by other people very easily, because the first house, like I said, what you see is what you get here. Now, Mars in the first means that you'll be a lot more assertive than usual. So if somebody says something to you the wrong way, you're going to be quick to sort of let them know. Mars can sometimes make mountains out of molehills in the first house. So just be careful not to overly assert yourself or overly react to things. Now, the high side side of Mars in the first house is sometimes it's good to have some extra assertion, especially with Venus in the 12th, where maybe you've been sacrificing a little too much in your relationships. Mars in the first is going to say, these are my boundaries. Like, this is a great placement if you have to work on your boundaries. And Mars in the first can also mean that there's a lot of physical energy for you this month. So go start a workout routine, get really, really active, do something with your body that might help it in some way, especially activity-based with Mars in the first this month.
Yeah, Julia, I'm thinking the Virgos of the world might even find that to be somewhat refreshing.
Oh, yes,
because you had your head down, you're focusing on the details so much and trying to be perfect.
And Virgos do give a lot. Yeah, they do give a lot. They always try to be helpful to everybody. And, they could learn to say no to helping someone sometimes.
Yep, a little right selfishness might not be a bad idea right there.
Hi, Jamie here. Horoscopes and moon videos are fascinating, but they're more general than personal. Did you know we run live workshops monthly and that you can get questions answered about your own chart there? This month's topic is harvesting your Jupiter luck, and in it you can find out when is the next time you'll have money luck, career luck, or relationship luck, or even a period of personal charisma that makes you especially persuasive and attractive to opportunity like a magnet. This workshop is expressly for our Tier 2 Patreon subscribers. It's easy to sign up at the Patreon link in the description below. I'd love to see you there. Now let's get back to the video.
Well, for months now, we've been having one easy moon and one difficult moon each month, but this month, both moons feature a lot of harmony, which is just terrific, and I can't wait to show you. Starting with the July 3rd full moon in Capricorn, landing right here in your fun and playful 5th house. And if that sounds a bit like an oxymoron, it's because it is. The moon, first of all, doesn't necessarily love being in Capricorn. It finds it to be a little bit restraining. But for you, Virgo, Capricorn can kind of be like a playground. And here's what I mean. So we know that Virgo has this reputation for being hardworking, for being, meticulous, detail-oriented, perfectionistic, and for kind of enjoying organizing stuff. And the 5th house is where we find the sign Capricorn from a Virgo perspective. And Capricorn is all about building things, doing something useful with that structure and building it up into something, bigger and that other people can benefit from as well as yourself. So I think that this full moon in the 5th house could find you, expansively approaching some things that you're in the mood to do and get accomplished. Now, we're calling this moon Grow Your Emotional Intelligence. And we're calling it that because of the involvement of Mercury. Mercury is right here in Cancer with the sun, opposite to the moon. And we're calling it, that's the intelligence part. And then the emotional part, or the emotional intelligence part, is all these placements in Cancer, which are making the moon have to feel some stuff, not just, be shut down or closed off or, emotionally contained or only having emotions when appropriate. So when we look at the moon in Capricorn in the 5th house, that might be you being in the mood to accomplish things, but then you might find that your friends come over and they say, hey, what about a little spontaneity? What about a little intuition? What about, remembering that you are a feeling creature? And that could even make this more fun for you. So this moon has a lot of great harmony built right into it. There's trines and sextiles to Jupiter, trines and sextiles to Saturn. There's a lot of wisdom and growth potential in this moon, and you can find out all about it on our website on the forecast page at pandoraastrology.com. So I strongly encourage you to go and do that. And then we have the second of this month's moons, a new moon in Cancer, which is happening on July 17th, and it lands in your 11th house, where that sun has already been traveling. So the moon joins up with the sun right here in your 11th house. And we're calling this one Brilliant Psychic Insights. This one does have a little bit more stress in it, involving a square with that Chiron that I mentioned a minute ago might have you a little bit angry, a little bit of old stuff coming up about assertion and so forth, with Mars, of course, helping. But there's such powerful insight to be had during this new moon, especially when you plant seeds in the domain of your friendships. So new moons are about the planting of seeds. They're about, planting a seed and creating something new, but that always happens in darkness and in mystery. We plant it in the earth, we don't see it germinate. And so it involves some trust. And this being a moon in Cancer, of course, it's going to be very intuitive. And it landing in your 11th house means that you should be planting these seeds in your friendships with your friends. And the reason why we're calling it Brilliant Psychic Insights is because all of the intuitive factors are here in a triangle. We have the moon, which rules Cancer, loaded with sympathy and intuition. And it also at home in Cancer, so double loaded, you might say. Trine Neptune, which brings the spirituality and the imagination and the otherworldly factors. And then we have Pluto opposite that moon, which can make things a little dark and heavy, but also open the door to the healing of old traumas and the creating of intimacy. So, and then as for the word brilliant in the title of this moon, that has everything to do with Uranus, so very adept at thinking outside the box and bringing some practical insights as well by being in Taurus. So this moon is pretty awesome and bodes fair to really improve friendships specifically. Now, as this month begins, of course, the sun is still traveling along through the sign of Cancer. And if we are to look at this and to step things by weeks, you can see that there's still some planets lingering in Taurus, but there's this grouping here in your 11th house at the beginning of the month. And then as the month goes on, we see that things move on over into Leo, into your 12th house. So there's this general migration out of Cancer and into Leo, and then on into Virgo as well. So the month begins with this emphasis on your social life. And then there's this feeling of wanting to retreat, wanting to pull inward, wanting some blessed solitude as planets begin to migrate into the 12th house, and none more so than the sun. So when the sun moves into the 12th house, this is on July 23rd, and it's a signal that your end of year mop-up period is beginning. That's the last 30 days before your birthday. And that is a really special time in which you want to be bringing some closure and completion to the themes of the year that is ending. Some things you might want to, continue fishing until you catch them. Others you might want to cut bait and just decide, well, that project is not going to happen this year, or it might have to carry over into next year because it's not close to done. So there's often a really muddy feeling about this last month of your year, but it's also a really great time to just sit by yourself and intuit and feel into and be receptive to the themes that are incoming for the new year, and the way that the themes of the old year are rushing for closure. So it's also a really great time to get your annual birthday reading so that you can really get a jump on what's coming in the new year before your birthday actually happens, and come away with some awesome affirmations that will help you to navigate the year more powerfully. So while the sun is in the 12th house, you want to bring the high quality attention of the sun, represented by sunlight, into the domain of your deepest, most unconscious inner worlds. So this is why we like to retreat, go into solitude, pull away from the world, and maybe focus on our spiritual practices while the sun is passing along through the 12th house for the 30 days each year that it does that.
Well, that's all for today. If you love Pandora Astrology's free and informative horoscopes, then please do hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and share our horoscopes with your friends.
You can find out so much more about how this month's transits affect you in very personal timing in our monthly Patreon workshops. Find the link in the description below to get started. Enjoy your summer, and until next time, we'll see you around the cosmos.
Bye-bye.